No, this isn't the San Antonio River Walk. In fact, this one's only a mile long, but they say everything's bigger in Texas, right? This is Pueblo, Colorado, and I think they're more famous for their Slopper burgers. Yeah, this is the local cuisine. They're pretty famous in both Colorado Springs and Pueblo, where most bars and pubs will serve this concoction. What is it? Well, the Slopper burger is laid on a piece of toast and or fries, and it's immersed in this green chili or sometimes red chili sort of soupy mix with melted cheese. So does it taste good? Well, it's okay if you can get over the consistency. It's really goopy. Needless to say, this didn't become a part of my regular routine in Pueblo. Mountain thunderstorms did. Now, even though these daily thunderstorms were only seemingly a mile or two away, they very rarely blew into camp. But because you never really knew when one was going to blow into camp, you rarely saw people's awnings out. Well, I was just fascinated by this, and being the eccentric that I am, I had to try to see if I could go get up in one. So next thing you know, I was doing a little storm chasing. I was heading west up into the Rockies. But the weird thing about it was the closer I got to it, the more it seemed to elude me. So next thing you know, I'm at the winery at Holy Cross Abbey. Believe it or not, this is the first time I'd ever heard of monasteries making wine. Apparently it's a common thing. So after I had a wine tasting at a church, I felt like it was my duty to actually tour the abbey, and what the heck, it was free. And it was a delightful tour, and I was having a really fun time. So I asked a staff member what else there was to do in the area. So he told me I had to see the Royal Gorge, and I'm like, I'm there, I'm going. Now, the Royal Gorge is known for being one of the deepest, if not the deepest, canyon in all of Colorado. At one time, the Royal Gorge Bridge was the tallest bridge in the entire world. This is a tourist attraction, and they even have an amusement park right there at the bridge. But on this particular day, the amusement park was not open. In fact, I was the only person probably within miles of this bridge. On another day, I made my way to Cripple Creek, Colorado, which is a former mining town that's become a casino town. And I had to go there and play some poker, right? That's what I do. So I took the scenic route. I took Highway 67. I mean, that's what it said on my GPS. Highway 67. I assumed it was a highway, right? Now, truth be told, all the warning signs were there. No double axles, no vehicles over 20 feet, this, that, and the other. The warning signs were there. Might as well have said, you need a four-wheeler. But I didn't heed the warnings because it's a highway, right? What's the worst that could happen? It's pretty much a cliffhanger all the way. It's a single lane gravel road on a cliff, two-way traffic. Yeah, and there's no backing up or turning around. Once you're on this road, you gotta stick it out, and it's 50 miles to Cripple Creek. And apparently the locals know well enough to stay off this road because I literally saw two vehicles the entire way. What are the chances the three of us could nearly get in a collision? So here's the deal. About every 200 or 300 feet or so, there's a little pull-off, if you can even call it that. It's just a little extra wide lane, maybe a couple, 3 extra feet, where one vehicle can pull over to let another one by. So like I said, I hadn't seen a car in probably, 45 minutes or so. And this one was coming up pretty fast behind me. In other words, he was coming at me about 10 miles an hour while I was going 5 to 7. And he was coming up pretty close to me. Coming from the other direction, I saw another vehicle. So I used the pull off going around a bend to let that car get by me. Now what I didn't realize is that this car that had creeped up behind me took this to mean that I was letting him go by. So he sped up. He was going way better than 15 miles per hour just to get by me going around this bend at a high rate of speed and nearly hit the other car head on. Those two cars came within inches of colliding, and if they had, they would have knocked me off the cliff. I would have been the goner. So what happens next? Well, the car that passed me had to back up around a very, very sharp bend, about 300 or 400 feet until he could let the other car by. You talk about nerve-wracking. So it's a good thing Cripple Creek has cold beer. I had a great time here. I got to study up on the mining history of this town and visited some of the old saloons and played a little bit of poker. It was a great day. And you can be sure as shit I didn't take Highway 67 back to camp. I can't even believe that road is open at night. Well, say hello to my friends Richard and Bonnie. Now, there are a lot of great folks that stay here at Haggard's RV Park, but these folks are easily my favorites. Richard and Bonnie have the only full-length trailer here as they were grandfathered in when the park was purchased by the new owners. Richard grows a lot of unusual fruits and vegetables in his garden, and I was so fortunate to be able to enjoy one of his rattlesnake watermelons. Richard and Bonnie had a very simple way about them, and I couldn't help but notice that they didn't have a lot of possessions, and they used very little electricity, if they used any at all. They didn't seem to have much in the way of modern technology. So on the evening before my departure, I noticed one of the tires on my van was low. Miles from any gas station, I started asking around for an air compressor. I was pretty astonished when one of them suggested that I go talk to Richard. I felt pretty foolish asking him, and I thought maybe I was being pranked or something, but sure enough, he had me follow him to his car, and he opened the trunk. The only item in his trunk was a little tiny air compressor. It was like he opened a treasure chest and there was the Holy Grail. Never a dull moment here in southern Colorado. Next stop, Kansas.